Greetings, greetings. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. We're now going live. Welcome, welcome. The topic of this video is going to be fuel shortages, comma, capital controls, bank holiday, comma, power outages, imminent, question mark, something like that. It's what I wanted to discuss before you all. I want to thank you all for joining. Those who will join in the near future, big shout out to you. Those who continue to rock with the channel, those who have stayed loyal, I appreciate you. I do apologize too because I'm coming before you guys pretty late, but I want to try to give you guys a new video, let you all know that do follow me, that have questions, what's going on, what we need to prepare for. I thought of one of the titles in the video. I actually thought about putting in there, and I put it in a previous video. So this is going to be along the lines of emergency preparedness. By the way, keep that in mind. If I forget about that, this is along the lines of emergency preparedness to give you guys a heads up of what's coming down the road. This is not fear mongering. This video is a bit of speculation. They are my opinions. I'm going to get ready to give a disclaimer, so keep that in mind. But this is like a heads up, a courtesy for those. I thank you guys that have appreciated this information in the past, that those who have let me know. I've done a couple videos in the past, and one in particular on emergency preparedness, where I actually went over some potential solutions. Just something a bit basic to kind of give people an idea. But as usual, before we get into the meat potatoes, this video is going to be for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In any event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource channel is not liable or responsible for anyone's misuse of the information being presented. Please keep in mind everyone is responsible for their own commercial affairs. With that being said, that is, by watching this video, that is your tacit agreement. You have entered into this contract. You indemnify Dorsey's Resource from any liability thereof. All rights are reserved. Now let's get into this. Once again, the topic of this video is along the lines of fuel shortages, capital controls, bank holiday, power outages, imminent question mark. Capital controls are a form of, if there's a bank holiday, that's where, like, because lately there has been a run on the banks. People are fearing what they have saw, like, for example, the banks that were affiliated with cryptocurrency, Silicon Valley Bank, SVB Bank, Signature Bank in New York. All of a sudden, these regulations being that have come down, they have actually startled a lot of people. They have stirred up. People are afraid. They don't feel, there's people already that don't feel their funds are safe. And there's actually evidence of this. I confirmed with one of my private elite sources. By the way, there was a video that I saw from looking at another channel. It's a guy down south. I can't remember the name of his channel, that goes over this type of information specifically and warns people how to get prepared, and basically intel that he receives similar to me, but he focuses more on these type of things. And this is not out of fear mongering or things of that sort. By the way, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind, that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. Keep that in mind. Those of y'all who have a solid, strong background in religion. I'm not trying to get religious on you guys. I'm just saying, do have a background, firm foundation in the church, by the way, which I do appreciate. And this is a warning. So this is not any of that what some will refer to as, this is to try to get prepared for truly what's coming down the road. If it's you need to get dehydrated meals, water filters, filtration devices, and things in case there's services that go down in your area. If you live out in the outskirts, outside the city, these things will behoove you to have any event of a major crisis, another pandemic, which we just went through a form of a pandemic, by the way. So this is a form of emergency preparedness, by the way, to give you all a heads up. But once again, let's try to stay on topic. The bank holidays deal with if there's uh, like a run on the banks, which has been going on where a lot of people have been withdrawing their money from major institutions across the country. The banks could implement limits on withdrawals from ATM machines. Many banks already have this, but they can get more strict. That's where the capital controls means comes into play. And this has happened in other countries when they went through financial turmoil just over a decade ago. You all may have heard or prior what happened in Greece, Cyprus, by the way, where I heard where banks limited, where it was far worse than, let's say, for example, if your bank, a certain bank allows $500 withdrawal from the ATM machine, they could reduce that down to as low as 300, 200, worst case, even 100, less than that, by the way. And I heard hyperinflation got so bad in certain countries that people had wheelbarrows of worthless paper, and it couldn't buy them food. But one silver coin was able to buy them food. I forgot someone had gone over this in the video that I saw, but I heard something similar from someone I know behind the scenes that's very knowledgeable that told me years ago during the Vietnam War, the people who were able to escape, they actually had precious metals. I guess they were knowledgeable of the more wealthier part of that population at the time. And it shocked me. I said, really? And this person said, yeah, the precious metals that they had on them allowed them to have, because that's, precious metals commodity market, but having holding the physical, that's actually real currency. And Pastor Lindsey Williams used to say, rest in peace, who I just found out he passed away not too long ago. Pastor Lindsey Williams would say that is the currency of the elite. If you guys don't know who Pastor Lindsey Williams is, by the way, is I have new people that just subscribe to my channel. In case you all wonder why I repeat myself, why I go over sometimes repetitive information is because you guys have to keep in mind, I have new people that just subscribe to my channel frequently, and they are new to this. So I go over this information so they can do their research and their homework, which I encourage in my disclaimer that I give. He was someone many years ago. He was a chaplain that was invited by an elite to live with them at the Alaskan pipeline many years ago from some of the biggest oil tycoons, wealthiest people in the world, Atlantic Richfield. That's all I know. One of his elite friends some years ago actually died before he did while he was still alive. Then another elite friend he mentioned that he had reached out to him, but it seemed like this other elite friend didn't give him as much information as the previous elite who died, whose name was Ken Fromm, by the way. Ken Fromm, he released the name, or the name, I guess, leaked out many years after he died, but that was the elite friend at the time, whose name he couldn't mention when he was giving him the information. And Pastor Lindsey Williams, what he would do, he would warn the people and put out DVDs, because he used to say that the elites, that faction that he was part of, had a code of ethics. So they would kind of use him as a mouthpiece to warn the people, I guess, in the general public, what was going on. People who are in the know, generally speaking, who are knowledgeable of this information. So Pastor Lindsey Williams years ago, people put out information word of mouth that the technology at the time was like cassette tapes, VHS, or DVDs, and books. He would put out different things where he would put out their predictions, because they controlled the markets. Like when the commodities market will go up, or oil, or something, that stocks or something that people would invest in, he would do a book. If you were paying attention and you had your eyeglasses on, Pastor Lindsey Williams would warn people. So that's just to give you a brief background, a synopsis to tie this in, by the way, for what's coming down the road. So power outages, I put in the title as well, are imminent. Some of you all that follow the independent media may already be aware of some things that have been actually taking place, by the way, where I heard certain facilities, power facilities, were targeted, but the mainstream media may have said other reasons what happened. in the news, because we guys know they always don't report on accurate information. By the way, there's a lot of propaganda. Look up the definition of propaganda, what that means, by the way, because they don't allow you to talk about or want you to talk about certain things anymore. As that's become clear, that's become evident. I won't really delve into that too much, but I wanted to give you guys a warning for sure. As some research that I have been doing recently, there's a bill that some of you all may be aware of. I can't remember. It was Bill 686 or something like that. It hasn't gone through the House. It hasn't been voted on yet. It has to pass the Senate. And I think the president will have to sign off on it if it passed. But I was informed they call it the TikTok bill or something. It's actually a cover, by the way, not just to ban TikTok, but it's a cover to actually go after big, large platforms. And I found out because there's individuals that have read the entire bill. There's independent media that I follow. Big kudos to Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, who I discovered did a video on Band.video because he's partnered with you know who at Band.video. There's some other URLs in case those URLs or hypertext protocols are banned. There's alternatives to pull up the information to get the true information. And Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, did a report. It was a real short video, so it's not a long video because I know some of you out there don't like the fact that, and I admit at times I'm long-winded because there's a lot of information I have to share with you all and others as well. But you have to keep in mind there's a lot of information, important, pertinent information to unpack that is detrimental to you guys understanding and getting out there. And this is real information. This is not propaganda that the mainstream you have to be careful of. And I encourage you guys to cross-reference because we have nowadays the fact checkers out there, which are actually forms of gaslighting nowadays. Not saying in all instances, but a lot of the independent media is portrayed as though that they're the ones spitting the propaganda or disinformation. And that is not true. That is not the case. I can tell you from experience that I personally am a very astute person. I'm very well studied. Now, there's people I give credit to that are more well studied than me in certain areas, more advanced. But I have a broad array of knowledge. I have a unique skill set. I've even been told by relatives and friends how smart I am. I'm not trying to boast or brag that I've been told I absorb a lot of information. I actually did some research on myself some years ago and found out that I have a partial autobiographical memory, which that is separate from a photographic memory, because I went over this with some people. I said, no, it's not the same thing. There's some similarities, but there's a difference between the two. You have to look it up. Just as an example, I did research on myself because I was wondering why I had friends, people kept telling me they were trying to encourage me at the time to go into a particular field of IT, information technology. And my friends at the time, they were part of a rap group that I was part of and saying you will be really good at this. At the time, they were sharing this. So some years later, it just dawned on me because I had started hearing relatives say, hey, it's amazing. You can go back and remember certain dates. Or they said, I can't do that. They said, oftentimes you compliment us with breaking things down, but they noticed that I had something they weren't able to do. So they were just putting it out there. So I just decided to do research on myself and found out that I have a form of autobiographical memory. But there's people who actually have that way, way better than I do. Believe it or not, as I did research, there's people that can remember all the way back when they were a teenager, and they can remember the specific day and the week it was and what they were doing that day. Or they have a skill set where they can remember what day of the week it was if you go back and just name a random year in the 1800s. I'm not that good. And a lot of times those people are mathematicians, and I was good at math. Math was my favorite subject, by the way. Just to show you guys, I do very in-depth research, forensic research. As another traveling man told me some years ago at an event, he said that I'm actually a forensic researcher, a forensic historian for things that means I go in depth. I look at things microscopically. So this will be a form of forensic science, which police, private investigators use what they call forensic science. It's used to solve crimes and murders of things where, keep in mind, where people weren't on the actual scene of the crime, where they use DNA evidence or other things. They connect chronological things, go through brainstorming, psychology, and things where they look at things very in depth. That's a form of forensic science, by the way. See how I broke this down so you guys can understand. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. So I wanted to prove to you guys really quick to give you guys concrete information. I know, I'm speaking very intellectually, but I like for you guys to be on the same page. So when you guys go back and the mainstream media tries to make us look like we're stupid or we flew over the cuckoo's nest, you guys will already have a heads up, because I had people that came back to me and said, yeah, Dorsey, you warned me. They tried to say, do this, and it's like you gave us the moves ahead of time like chess. You were 2 and 3 moves ahead. So I just want you guys to know this is the tricks that they play. So don't trust the MSNBCs, the CNN out there, the Mayor Eric Adams, things that they're telling you, for example. That's why Lori Lightfoot lost, by the way. And I knew clearly when she went up against the Fraternal Order of Police during the pandemic. And I won't go into what I normally talk about. They said they're a very powerful group. And I said, oh, she went up against the Fraternal Order of Police. I said, wow. And I won't go into that, but there's some things that I know from the research that I do. And I'm not surprised why she didn't win a re-election, even though she won an anonymous term in her first term. But, there's some other things I won't go into details about. But you need to, if you are into politics, because I'm not a registered voter, you need to really hold these people accountable and get a return on your investment. By the way, you should receive a return on your investment. Also, on a side note, I wanted to let you guys know, I was going to say this in the beginning. This is on a side note. Doing this video, I had a relative that passed away. Rest in peace to my aunt Trina, my auntie Renee. I think her maiden name was Winslow Dorsey Whitlow. By the way, my aunt Trina, I knew her as my aunt Trina. Some of my cousins knew her as Nana. They called her. But to me, she was like my second mother. So rest in peace to. The funeral was this past weekend in Cleveland, Ohio. So I wanted to acknowledge some of my relatives do follow my channel, by the way. And I wanted you guys to know, some of my subscribers wonder sometimes too why I haven't done a video in a while. You guys may have been wondering what's going on. And it's kind of still been hard. And I really do think about this relative at the time, my dear Aunt Trina, that passed away and took real good care of me when I was a baby, in my toddler years, into my early years, and even into my early childhood years. My father moved us to Detroit many years ago, and we would always visit. That was one of the places that I always wanted to go to. So I knew I needed to make certain relatives. You know how so many, if you have a big family, you know what it's like. You can't make everybody's funeral. But to me, she was an important relative on my father's side of the family. I consider her to be like my second mother. Her son and daughter, my cousin Delmar, my cousin Lori. By the way, I was the oldest child in my family specifically. So to me, growing up, they were like my older brother and sister. I never had an older brother and sister. So they showed me what it was like to have an older brother and sister. And they took real good care of me when my parents were away. As you know, the story, I was a church boy, a mama's boy. My father was an ordained minister in the Church of God in Christ. My mother she became ordained many years ago, but she was also a music artist, a gospel Christian music artist, by the way. And they were really busy at times, by the way, growing up, and things I didn't really follow in my father's footsteps. As many said that grew up in the church with me, many church mothers that saw me said, hey, you're going to be a preacher just like your daddy, by the way. But I appreciate going over my auntie Trina's house. She gave me the time. And I spoke a little bit about this at the funeral, but I was very hurt, so it was difficult for me to mention this. But I want to share this with you guys, and I follow other channels out there that have relatives that pass away and things that acknowledge that. And I just wanted to acknowledge my family. So I still been hurting a little bit. Trust me. And, it still hurts, but I try not to log into Facebook sometimes. to acknowledge the family. I log in there to look at some of the pictures and reminisce, but I tried not to because it hurts. If you know what it's like to lose a relative, someone that you can reminisce and that I saw, I just wish I had the opportunity to travel more down to Cleveland, Ohio. By the way, it's easy for some people, but for myself, I thought I was going to be free by now, not in the predicament that I'm in. And some of you guys know what I'm talking about, by the way, why I was not able to travel down there as much. And that is my goal in the near future. By the way, hopefully, God willing, and I'm able to get out of this job entirely just over broke, by the way, then I would have more time to be able to see my family more often, even other parts of the country. But that's where I'm originally from, is Cleveland, Ohio. That's my home. By the way, Cleveland shares a very special place in my heart. Just so you guys know, FYI, for your information, even though I've been in Detroit, Detroit is my home as well. I rep both cities unapologetically. The 313 and 216 area code. That's my heart, my love. So big shout out to Cleveland, Ohio, my family down there, and my aunt who passed away. I just had to want you guys to know, because I do, once again, to reiterate, I do have relatives that follow my channel. And I do give a disclaimer because I know not all of them necessarily agree with my stance on my political views, but I'm going to keep it 150, keep it real, keep it 100 at the end of the day. And I'm going to talk about other things before I get back on the topic, by the way. So I just wanted to acknowledge them and my aunt, rest in peace, too. Gone, but never forgotten. You poured into a lot, and I want to honor you and remember you, by the way, and that's my way of putting it out there. So I'm gonna go to someone in the chat. Steve Stein says, "Greetings, Dorsey. Appreciate you for joining, Steve. I just wanted to jump in. Wasn't sure how many people we're gonna get. Also, another note I wanted to share with my subscribers, everyone that continues to follow the channel, that continues to rock with me, is that I had discussed this in the past. My channel had been shadow banned before, by the way, and I think I have actual confirmation. By the way, I noticed whenever I use the Zoom software, by the way, that my channel appears to be, whenever I upload a Zoom video, I notice for a fact, I've noticed this pattern for quite a while. It doesn't get as many views when I use StreamYard. So when I do presentations from now on for things that I want to go in depth, when I want to teach or do classes on particular topics, it will behoove you, if you like to share the video to help it get out more, share it on Telegram, other platforms. I would appreciate it, because YouTube, for whatever reason, all the videos that I use the Zoom software, they have done something to the algorithms where they make it difficult for those videos to really push out compared to StreamYard. So this is a fact. I'm not just using this as an excuse not to grow my channel, by the way, but I want you guys to really know I've noticed that whatever reason, because I have several other platforms I share my videos on. I'm on True Social at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Parler at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Minds.com. I'm on Twitter. I already have 2 different Facebook accounts for my Dorsey's Resource page. And Twitter now shows the numbers. And I've just noticed that's very strange. So they're doing something to suppress my viewership whenever I upload videos through Zoom. So if you guys keep this in mind, share the videos. If you want to see the information get out, like the channel. Don't forget to thumbs up. But I want to give you a heads up. This is confirmation. I've noticed that this channel has been shadow banned, by the way. And you can look up what shadow banning is. Go on YouTube and look up what shadow banning is. That is real. By the way, they're using the algorithms to suppress my viewership, where it's not being put in the feed, or it's being slowed down from being put out there. So just keep that in mind, by the way. Hold on real quick, guys. Okay, I'm back. I just wanted to let you guys know. So when I since I'm being shadow banned once again, I was going over whenever I use the Zoom software to bring you guys like a visual video, because Zoom allows me to share my screen. I have a paid version of Zoom where I'm able to utilize the screen capture, but also show my face if I want to at the same time while I'm giving you all a presentation or I'm going over redemption education information. So those Zoom videos, whenever I use Zoom, to give you all a heads up, you want to see this channel grow, you want to see this channel get out there, you have my permission to share my videos on Telegram, by the way, because the more subscribers that I get can help overcome the shadow banning. But there's a difference when I use StreamYard, this is the software that I'm using now. I don't have a problem. It generally, I can tell, if I'm going to get more views by using StreamYard, by the way. But there's something going on with the algorithms when I notice when I use Zoom, by the way. So they're doing something that what I know is a form of shadow banning. You guys have to look it up. Some of you all may already know. So if you want to help the channel grow, help me get the information out, thumbs the video up. Also, share this video on other platforms. And that's what kind of gave me indication, because those a combination of those other platforms that I mentioned that I share my videos on, those platforms, some of those platforms actually give me the numbers of how many people view that particular video. Like Minds.com does this. Twitter now, since Elon bought it, I noticed, has like a numbers count. Ever since he bought it, my Twitter handle wasn't shadow banned anymore. It's going through like the real algorithm now. So I was going to show you guys that one day, a comparison ever since Elon purchased Twitter, because they were doing some things. The Democratic Party, and I know I don't want to make this a one-sided thing. There's Republicans that are corrupt as well. Generally, those are rhino establishment Republican in name only, and establishment people are on the same side, because a lot of those people, as I previously explained, a lot of those establishment people are part of the secret societies. They're Masons. They're part of fraternities. They're part of sororities. They don't have the public's best interest at heart. And I'm not saying that everyone who's part of a fraternity or sorority has ill will, but keep in mind, a lot of those people have made secret agreements. They're loyal to their secret networks. They wear secret symbols, emblems, and you see them on the back of cars, necklaces, handshakes, gestures, etc., clothing. So they're going to look out for each other, and they don't have the public's best interest at heart anymore. A lot of these politicians have sold out the people. They're supposed to serve we the people. And you want to reach out to your politicians regarding this bill they're trying to pass. They call it the TikTok ban. You can look it up if it's 686 or something like that in the name. You guys can find it. But it's actually a cover to target large platforms like InfoWars, and even go after, I found out, cryptocurrencies as well. I just found out Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, did an excellent report on how they're using that as a cover to dismantle the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the First Amendment, and which encompasses freedom of speech, of course, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, etc., the right to not self-incriminate yourself, etc. And it explains, he said he read the entire bill, just relaying the information, and it had verbiage in there that they could just arbitrarily seize your cryptocurrency, or if they deem that your information is just arbitrarily, they just want to make up something like they're doing with the you-know-who, they can arbitrarily say this is disinformation, and you could face $1 million fine, 20 years imprisonment, or they can accuse you of disinformation. So these, whoever votes for that bill, take names of those people, because I know there's going to be people that these are enemies of humanity. This is a current form of takeover. You need to get the word out to your grandma, your auntie, your nieces, your nephews, and Democrats out there, liberals, even liberal socialists. Don't think that you won't be targeted or you won't be next, because you will be if you stand up and you co-sign this. So I'm thinking all this time that this specifically involved TikTok. I had no idea that this particular bill, something they created, had all this, they called it a bait and switch, all this hidden stuff in there. So you want to notify all your representatives and find out and track down. I even heard they're blocking FOIA requests, which that's illegal. You're supposed to have the right to due process, Freedom of Information Act, to request why certain information is being blocked. That's what Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, went over. Just sharing this with you guys to get the information out. This is real important. I was even considering resharing the video on my channel. And I still might actually on my main channel, by the way, because he articulates and goes over, you know, the information. But it's on band.video. This is a very real thing. So you need to spread the word, get the word out. This is criminal. This is unconstitutional. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I'm back. I just went live. I didn't know if you guys could still hear me. It looks like I hit a button by mistake and went out as I was going over important information. So we're still live. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay, if the sound is all right. I remember last time we were having sound issues. The weather was also bad, and I think what may have also been the culprit, I was using my Bluetooth device was still connected. I'm currently at the I call it the work slavery plantation, by the way, and because the vehicle that I'm in, some idiot broke the navigation screen. This is before I became a supervisor. They call it an OIC, officer in charge, and I told them, and even the role supervisor who got hired after me, that it's, you know, we have to go to these different sites for alarms or schools for patrols, that we need the GPS navigation screen. So I have to use my phone instead. So I use, because these phones, the way they're being designed, I like my volume to be loud, and they max the volume out. Even the Bluetooth device that I'm using maxes out at a certain volume, but it was a Bluetooth speaker, and I think it was still linked. And that's what was interfering, why the sound the last time when you all heard me wasn't coming through correctly, and it was chopping up. So that's why I deleted that video. So let me know if you guys can hear me. Okay, thank you, Steve. Sound is okay. Those of y'all who are watching, don't hesitate to chime in, even though I didn't put Q&A in there. Now's the time. I was going to have do another free consultation session, like another surprise session down the road. But if you guys right now have any questions you want to ask me, some things you might want to go over real quick that I am able to go over, now's the time to do so. These are the best times to reach me. So I know some of you guys complain, we don't know which schedule. We are on different schedules. I have subscribers that are in California that are several hours behind me that may still be up, by the way. And I appreciate those that are out on the West Coast. Have some that are in the Arizona area. Big shout out to. So now's the time to chime in. Don't hesitate. So I always encourage you guys. So Chauncey Gordon, it says in Texas, says sounds good. Yo, big shout out to my subscribers, people in Texas. I've said some years ago, something about Texas showed me a lot of love. I have subscribers in Florida. You can shout out your state. New Jersey, Georgia, all over. Even I had subscribers in the UK, in England. By the way, big shout out to. I had subscribers in Canada, the Canadian area. Big shout out to Canada. Appreciate you guys. So to get back on topic, I was discussing the topic of this video originally was fuel shortages. I didn't really delve into that. That's something that actually Pastor Lindsey Williams talked about. But I hear that can be potentially imminent. So don't be surprised, and that has already taken place in some instances, why the price of diesel has gone up. By the way, that don't be surprised if that comes down the road, that fuel shortages could potentially be imminent. by the way, down the road is if we enter into hyperinflation, we don't know how bad things can get as far as the dollar depreciating in value, losing its value because they're bringing out a new currency. So I hear with the BRICS nation, the old U.S. dollar is no longer going to be traded as it once was, part of the Bretton Woods Agreement many years ago, where different countries use the U.S. dollar to trade commodities with or resources. There's countries that saying they're no longer going to use the dollar to trade with, by the way, and that has something to do with what's coming down the road and this new currency reset, this new banking system that they're going to implement. So I heard that the dollar, the system that it's on, is going to eventually be phased out as part of the old legacy system. So I don't know exactly how things are going to play out, but I heard this is part of emergency preparedness. You want to get prepared now. So things you're going to want to have a certain amount of cash on hand. You're going to want to have a certain amount of precious metals. You also going to, for certain purposes, you may still even be able to access or have your debit card or prepaid card and have alternatives to not just one bank account, but maybe multiple accounts. By the way, in case if one bank fails or goes down, you have a potential backup or you have a significant amount of cash on hand. Just something to keep in mind. So those three things, you want to have precious metals on hand. It's very important, specifically silver and gold. I know gold is more expensive. There are smaller denominations you can buy that are cheaper than a full ounce, by the way. Some people buy as low as grams, but that's going to eventually, as the dollar weakens in value, it's, even though the commodities market is heavily manipulated, gold and silver are the two commodities that are heavily suppressed compared to platinum, rhodium, and palladium. They definitely like to hold, but that day I hear is coming to an end in the near future. It's coming to a close. There's going to come upon a time that the bubble is going to pop, that gold and silver are no longer going to be manipulated to the degree that they are, because that group that's actually attacking that cryptocurrency, Binance, actually gave a warning. I did a video about this a while ago. That group, I forget the name, they're like a regulatory body, like similar to the Securities Exchange Commission. They gave a warning to Chase Bank and some other banks that were manipulating the commodities market, let's say the futures market. That's like the COMEX exchange in Chicago. That stands for acronym for Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which I found out some know it's the futures market, or COMEX, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which is connected to the New York Stock Exchange. By the way, this group that's going after the crypto platform, crypto exchange, Binance, this regulatory body, I forget the name, it's like a commodities regulatory body, I forget the name. By the way, you guys can help me out. They are actually, I did a video a while ago. They were in the video. They had already warned Chase Bank a couple different times. And Chase Bank, I believe they paid a fine because they felt, they're the big bank, which is connected to the Federal Reserve. Since they print money out of thin air, they felt they can just pay a fine and just be done with it. Unlike you or I, an average person who's not crossed on the other side would definitely go to jail, do some hard jail time. Like even just for writing, people that wrote bad checks and stuff like that, when banks have done far worse. You can go back and watch the videos I've done. Scotiabank was warned, got in trouble. They're located in Canada. HSBC Bank. There's some other banks other than Chase was warned for commodities manipulation. So the same group, they play favoritism, by the way, because they're attacking cryptocurrency. Some say because they don't want the average person becoming wealthy. This is what a friend of mine pointed out when that short squeeze happened with GameStop. By the way, remember when on that Robinhood app, there was a lot of people that were holding the GameStop stock. And as it was going up, I heard one guy mention they forced him to sell it at 300. He bought in like around $20 or whatever, multiplied his profit, and Robinhood Exchange made him sell it at 300, and it went as high as I forget 500 or 600 when those guys colluded to collapse, or it hurt a big hedge fund. A lot of people, small fry people, average Joes made a lot if they were in on it early. Well, a friend of mine had said at the time that this was indication to him that this was proof that they did not want the average person to be wealthy. And this is why I believe the cryptocurrency Shiba Inu has been heavily suppressed, heavily manipulated, because there's a lot of people invested in Shiba Inu. I believe Currency 365, who's followed my channel, has mentioned that. I've listened to Currency 365. I still subscribe to him. I still follow him. And big shout out to the work that he's putting out there. He still does. Him and TC, Twisted Christian, and many others out there. Currency 365 is mentioned very similarly. So that's an example. They don't want these evil cabal that have heavily controlled and manipulated the banking system, by the way. So keep that in mind, by the way. I'm going to come in and read the comment section. Steve Stein says Minnesota red. Okay, all right. Minnesota in the house. Says the rainbow treasury note. Okay. Steve Stein says Nassara/Gassara. Yes. Question mark. Says the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission. Drew Polanco says the CFTC. Yes. I don't remember what they stand for. That's the regulatory body I was referring to. Thank you, Drew, for sharing that. I would have to look up the acronym again, but they're going after, I heard, the crypto exchange Binance, by the way, which is one of the Binance US. They had some years ago, they had to create a US version because they have a European version, by the way. And I heard some people were still able to access the overseas version because they had a VPN. You would have to have a VPN, a virtual privacy network, to access some of these exchanges that have banned US users, but they had created a US version. And because these regulations have been coming down, by the way, from the Biden administration, so this tells you, if you pay attention and have your eyeglasses on. And I also heard that same attorney general in New York who originally went after Trump, Letitia James, had classified what is that? A particular cryptocurrency. I think it was Ethereum. She classified Ethereum as a security or some crypto exchange, and she's also going after KuCoin, by the way. So keep in mind, these people that don't want you to have wealth, they make real good money. They get paid a real good salary. So this is for the poor people that are watching, or people who don't agree with me, that didn't like the fact that I supported Trump or I rocked with Trump at the time. It don't mean that you also, let me say this, that you co-sign everything. Just because you support someone doesn't mean you co-sign everything they agree with either. I told a friend of mine this, who's a conservative. This doesn't mean you have to co-sign everything someone agrees with, because I still support reparations. At the end of the day, I'm a realist. I use common sense. I'm very well studied, very well researched, and I'm a fair person. But I can tell who's the deep state, who the cabal is, the criminal elite, the evil elite, the criminal cabal. You got to distinguish the difference. You see, and despite the fact, if you don't like Trump, there's a difference. He's not necessarily in alignment with those people. He was a nationalist. He was a populist. He was for we the people. There's a difference between nationalism and globalism. Big difference between the two. Between nationalism and globalism. You can hate his personality, but I looked at his politics. There's a difference. A lot of people go along with what's called identity politics. But what's the difference is when you invest, when you vote for someone, you want a return on your investment. You want to look at their policies. What do they actually do? By the way, just something to think about. Not to come here to preach politics or try to persuade anybody to the left or right paradigm. Let's be clear on that. But you need to distinguish and you need to understand the difference, and you need to research this, who these people really are. I've been studying this for a number of years, by the way. And let me tell you, between Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Bush, Daddy Bush, and Junior Bush, I'm surprised they are being booked. They haven't been indicted already. As a matter of fact, some of them, and one in particular, already has. I just don't want to talk about it on my Facebook channel because I have a lot of my liberal relatives that follow me. I don't want to necessarily stir up controversy, but there's been a lot of evidence. Those people I just named, even more, even Biden and his son Hunter Biden, by the way, they have a long laundry list. I'm surprised Trump mentioned this. This is one thing that stood out. He said, until he ran for president, notice he was squeaky clean. Everybody loved him. Rappers shouted him out in songs. Rapper Nelly, they said they want to have money like Trump and Bill Gates. They would throw his name out there. You know, in terms of his money, he was a billionaire. He was the epitome of what a lot of people felt the American dream was. They want to be rich, wealthy, or have money like Trump. But until he became president, they found every little nook and cranny thing. He became enemy number one. Not saying a man is perfect. I'm not saying that. But when I compare all these other people that I follow, I have a real excellent memory too. And there's other people, not just me. There's millions, thousands of people. I have a friend of mine that pointed out things I forgot about that was public in the news. If you remember how Obama had a campaign violation, very serious crime, over $300,000. He actually acknowledged and apologized about. Why don't you hear about that anymore in the news? Just putting this out there. Well, they'll say, oh, Dorsey, you hating on another black man. You hating, brother. He was for your people. You supposed to be pro-black. I get it from the pro-black people. But a lot of the pro-black people are fake. They don't talk about how the Democratic Party was the party of slavery. They don't tell you about that, how the Democratic Party started the Ku Klux Klan. Oh, they don't like to touch on that, how the Democratic Party was responsible for burning down Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Oh, they don't want to talk about how the Democratic Party voted for the Jim Crow laws. The Democratic Party voted for the Black Code specifically. Those were two different laws. Early 1800s. Look it up. The Democratic Party. Yes. The Democratic Party was terrorizing whites and blacks so bad back in the 1800s. Did you know the Republican Party was formed as a result? Did you know Abraham Lincoln was part of a previous party before they formed the Republican Party? Because the Democrats were terrorizing whites and blacks so much. I had to tell my mother this. Look up the period of Reconstruction after Lincoln was assassinated. President Andrew Johnson vetoed the legislation that Lincoln was going to sign to give black Americans 40 acres and a mule to help repair the damage after slavery. Because I used to always wonder when they brought up the conversation of reparations, why they always brought up 40 acres and a mule. And I had these debates with a friend of mine that's a black conservative. Debated with him quite a bit about this. And I said, hey, man, we don't have to agree on this, but let's not be petty like a lot of our Democratic relatives and friends who act real petty. You know, when you support a particular issue, they act like they don't want to talk to you anymore. You know, we still have love. We're not petty. I'm not petty like that. And I reached out to my friend because we allegedly made a pact. We're not falling out no more. You know what I'm saying? I called him recently. I don't know what's been going on. You know, he hit me up the other day. And I still love him. He's my brother. But, you know, I'm going to discuss at the end of the day, this is really part of American history. This is not critical race theory. This is part of American history. And a lot of some black conservatives, but the majority of them don't support reparations. But if Candace Owens really understood or knew that they actually paid Japanese Americans for what happened, what they went through in Pearl Harbor, and that was just one incident. They disregard the numerous incidents that black Americans have suffered. So I acknowledge both sides of the spectrum. I'm not no coon. I'm not no Sambo. I acknowledge both sides historically. Even your boule people that have sold a lot of the black community out will only just talk about one side of the conversation. They won't talk about the whole entire thing. You see, So I just want to keep it real at the end of the day. But as I was going back to earlier, these people that don't want you to have money, document these people. Letitia James, she's going after these cryptos exchanges just like Biden. And these people make a real good salary. But they swear because they're Democrats that they're for the poor. They're for the middle class. I just proved to you right now that's a lie. You guys remember, I don't even have a Robinhood account. I've known about Robinhood for a while. I've been in touch with some people. The nurse that I was in touch with, who's a traveling nurse, I won't say her name. Big shout out to. I remember she had Robinhood. Some people have been able to use those Weibo and Robinhood apps where they've been in a position to be able to quit their jobs. I wish I knew earlier on about buying stocks and stuff, and I had positioned myself where I would have been in a position to get out of this job. But when I told that story earlier, you guys remember what they did when people were holding that GameStop stock on the Robinhood app and what Robinhood did to them. And man, my friend, he told me at the time, this proved to him, and he even told me he noticed that throughout the years when I would tell him, I said, hey man, these evil ones are using the banking system as a weapon. And who do they target in the black community? They target the men the toughest. They come after us for child support. We get married, they punish us if the marriage doesn't work out. For the divorce alimony, majority of us get the short end of the stick. And did you know statistically, black men get blamed for most of the crimes in the black community, but did you know over 55% of black men are single and childless? You got these feminist women on YouTube that are pushing this narrative that black men are the cause of all the problems in the black community when they choose these criminals and thugs. Historically, it was 18% to 20% of men statistically are sleeping with all the women. This has been statistically proven. 18 to 20% of the Pookies and Ray Rays and Thuggos, which make up a minority of the black community of black men, are sleeping with the majority of women. And this research, in case you're wondering, okay, where are the receipts at? I'm going to go over that. These receipts come from, they look up the amount of marriages from the U.S. Census Bureau, the population, look up the Center for Disease Control statistics, and Pew Research. This is a combination. These three things, the U.S. Census records, Center for Disease Control, and Pew Research. They factored in the black population, the number that's on welfare. Look this up. And also the amount of black Americans, Hispanic Americans, and minorities that are married. And nowadays they say it's up to 70% of marriages end in divorce. I remember one time years ago, it was 50%. It went up to 60%. I just heard recently, I was wondering. So they're saying it's up to 70% of marriages end in divorce. And the majority of divorces are initiated, over 90% are initiated by the woman. Let me say that again, over 90% of marriages are initiated by the woman. Because you got this group on YouTube that's pushing this narrative, by the way, that is beneficial for these demographics of few black men that are married. Because in the black community, these statistics, it was over 54%. It was around those numbers. They say it's actually greater. But this is a combination. You can look up, I have to crunch the numbers, from the U.S. Census records, the Pew Research, and the Center for Disease Control records. Over 54% of black men are single and childless. And I can name on my hand several friends and people that I know, including myself, that don't have any children, that are still single and childless. But yet, we're being blamed for the problems by these women, these feminists out there, such as, throw some names out there, Cynthia G, that has a channel, these Chrissy, Shira's channel that teaches her followers to become gold diggers. These evil feminist women are pushing this lie, this narrative. And I just proved to you statistically, when you go and get in debates, you go by the statistics. This is from credible governmental agencies and research groups that have conducted these statistics. But some of these numbers I found out they've tried to hide, including because it makes the black community look bad, the amount that were on welfare and things. But there's other things I could go into historically. But these women, these feminists, tried to discredit a significant portion and put us in a category, stereotype some of us men, and the majority of us are single and childless. Look it up statistically. Can you believe that? And we're being blamed for the problems in the black community. The devil is a lie. So I'm going over, I have a tendency, guys, I don't mean to get off track, but I have to go over the real information. I know this may trigger some people, but this is for what it is. I have to go over and give you guys the real information and what I go through as a black man or melanated man. I know there's different terms. Those are actually jurisdictional terms they created, by the way. I am aware of the those depictions, by the way. And I heard they're updating. They may be updating these things, these fake terms dealing with nationalities, by the way. Their descriptions. So I was going over, the title of this video was Fuel Shortages, Capital Controls, Bank Holidays, Power Outages Imminent. So I'm gonna go over a quick rundown, get prepared and emergency preparedness, storable food. It will behoove you, water filters, filtration devices, very important to have precious metals on hand, other necessities, portable power stations, portable generators, maybe an extra refrigerator. You also have portable type fridges, portable coolers that can act as refrigerators that are more, because I know some people like things to be compact or travel friendly, by the way, to be more tactical. They don't have a lot of weight. So you can look into things like that. Also to combat crime, because a friend of mine pointed out that studies emergency preparedness, you're going to need to be aware of marauders. Marauders are like people during the time of a collapse, things get really bad. There's different degrees of levels of how bad things could potentially get. But this is for emergency preparedness purposes. The ugly reality we all have to face, that when people get desperate, and desperate times calls for desperate measures. Marauders are like the people that would be like, normally would not steal or rob, because you're looking at a Mad Max scenario, or nearly a Mad Max scenario, where there's a breakdown of law enforcement, no rule of law, and they will try to take what other people have. And some of these people could be your neighbors. Some of these people could be your family members. Some of these people could be your friends, similar to the movie Purge. Some people who you thought were your friend could turn and become your enemy at that time. And they say people change when people go hungry after a certain number of days. They've done studies already. After so many days, they said when people, a majority of people that were civilized or law-abiding citizens would turn criminal after a certain amount of days. Then after so many days, they said people, the end result would turn to cannibalism. I know it sounds harsh and graphic, warning, but you know, these are actual scenarios. I'm not an expert, but I have heard about these things, and yes, it does concern me. By the way, I'm not as prepped up as some people, but I do have in my apartment, just putting it out there. By the way, I do have a gravity fed filter. I have 2 5-gallon jugs I've kept. One of them I've replenished. Another one is up to basically be replenished. I need to get another filter for my gravity fed filter I've had for a while. By the way, actually, that's an example to start off with something easy. By the way, and then there's other levels to this. They have certain devices to store your meals and things like that. You can look into. I'm still learning about those things. By no means am I expert, but I'm just putting it out there because it's important. This is information, very essential information that anybody can use, no matter what level that you're at. But you're going to need, with these things, when I mentioned earlier, the marauders, you're going to need to protect what you have. So another way you're going to need to fight back, you're going to need a form of security. Security cameras. are very important. You can have cameras placed in your cars. Tactically, they have cameras nowadays that can look inconspicuous, that can look like pop bottles, where people wouldn't tell the difference. You can have your rear view mirror to your vehicle, your automobile, look like a camera. I was going over this some years ago with one of my supervisors, by the way, and he was very impressed with the information I was sharing about. We were on Amazon, and he had already used hidden cameras. He told me a story, by the way, with one of his relatives that came to stay with him. He had a rule in place, and that relative had sex and broke that rule, that they would get evicted or kicked out. And that's exactly what happened. And he told me he saw everything on hidden cameras he had placed within his residence, by the way. So this is one way. And the police actually use the Ring doorbell cameras in the city of Detroit to help solve crimes. And a big shout out to the previous police chief, James Craig, that helped implement Project Greenlight. And he was brought here for a specific purpose at the time. When he first came here, I believe he was over Cincinnati, Ohio. It's funny how liberals will use Republicans are good people, but they won't use people of sometimes their own political party. But he was brought in, and I was telling some people, had he not implemented Project Greenlight, Detroit would be a lot worse than what it is in terms of crime. Like when Mayor Eric Adams gave a press conference about the Trump indictment is lying about. No, New York City has people are moving out in droves and still moving out. It's a shithole there. Hellified crimes happening there. And I read the comment section and people were saying this. That's a bunch of bullshit. But he mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene coming up there. You know. So New York City, they have a shortage of cops, police officers, even correctional officers all over the country. I get news I look at from all over the country. Rikers Island in New York has a major shortage of correctional officers. And this is happening. I heard an advertisement in Canton, Michigan, where I'm at, like a suburb outside of Detroit, because I work in the security field. And I told a guy years ago, he was trying to say I could get a lot of hours working for Wayne County. I said, there's no way in hell now, when I saw this video, that I would become a corrections officer. I used to want to be one at one time, mainly for the money, because it paid more money. And I could have had a chance to become a police officer. I never did. And you guys can read between the lines. I was going to do a video about that separately, but that's neither here nor there. So I know I follow the statistics, by the way. And Eric Adams is lying, talking about New York is one of the safest cities. No, the hell it is not. New York is one of the most dangerous liberal cities, just like Detroit. But Detroit, I was going to say, would be as bad as Philadelphia had James Craig, previous police chief, not implemented though Project Greenlight, which he mentioned at the time, helped reduce the crime by 60%. That included carjackings and robberies at stores. That was included together, by the way. So it reduced crimes by 60%, which included carjackings, by the way. Well, look at what happened in Philadelphia, by the way, where a gas station owner had to hire private armed guards with machine guns. I said the same thing would be happening in Detroit had James Craig. And if his police officers listen to me, law enforcement would know. Because I see when I have my new job now, I'm a supervisor, and I have to do patrols, and I have to travel back and forth from the west side to the east side. So I see the state police all the time, and they're busy. And there's even a shortage, I know, of even state police and even police officers, by the way. And they're actually recruiting heavily. So I know what that's not true what Mayor Eric Adams was given in that press conference about potential protesters coming into town, saying that New York City is now one of the safest cities under his leadership. That is not true. I don't know why they tell these bold-faced lies. But I have to get off here, guys. That's my time. I wanted to give you guys, some good information. Apologize. Some people may have gotten triggered, but I have to tell it like it is. And what I have been up to, and I'm going to stay at it. The marathon will continue. Legends never die. They stay in our hearts. If you want to follow my channel, follow me on social media. I'm at Dorsey's Resource on Facebook, Twitter, Truth Social. I'm on Parler and Minds.com. I'm also on Instagram. By the way, that's Instagram. That's my more liberal side. Those other platforms, my more conservative side. I repost. A lot of times I'm not on there that much. I'll log in, I'll log out. I repost my videos, share them. But if you guys want to follow me, you have that option. Check the description box. If you guys sincerely like the content that I put out, you guys rock with me. I appreciate you. You know, stay loyal to the game like the Tupac album. I'm loyal to you guys. Stay loyal to me, and I won't let you down. Trust me, down the road. Until next time, I appreciate you all joining me, and I'm out. Deuces. Peace.